Bangers got to that one. Bangers got that one too. Everybody knows, yeah.
We're running around the country looking for historic stuff. When we find what we're looking for, we just can't get enough. We're redneck archaeologists and we don't need no rest. We'll do everything it takes to finish out our quest. Redneck Archaeology.
This is actually, this is actually the same railroad. It didn't quite come by here, but this is part of the railroad that General Sidney Sherman first built. First railroad in Texas. And it was called, the B&C, which was
Buffalo Bayou, Brazos, and Colorado.
Buffalo Bayou, Brazos, and Colorado Railroad.
Went all the way out to Alleyton, Texas, right outside Columbus.
Let's talk about it.
Which went right out from Houston to Alleyton, Texas, which is right near Columbus on I-10 now.
Now, Dr. Graves, he was a young man whenever he took these cannons and hit them. And he had a few more men with him. I think it was 5 more men, and plus he had a servant with him, Dan. And Dan went wherever Dr. Graves went. There was this, I guess he owned him as a slave, but he treated him as a member of his family. And Dan served all the way through the war as a Confederate alongside his master, or his whatever, as a servant you would call that person. Which is really strange. And then whenever they went and rolled the cannons away, Dan was the one who buried them. Dan was actually the man who dug the hole to bury the cannons. Now, some of the other guys actually helped too, but they said that the ground was surprisingly hard. So we're going to go into that while we're out there. Stay tuned. Redneck Archaeologist going treasure hunting for cannons. Which Twin Sisters has been called the Holy Grail of Texas antiquities, or the Holy Grail of Texas archaeology, or the Holy Grail of Texas treasure hunting. So I guess we're going after the Holy Grail of Texas. Keep watching. This is Jackson Burns, Redneck Archaeologist. You never know what we might find. Can't get across. Alright. The reason they'd say to look here is because right over in there was the last place Graves stomped around trying to find. They said that Mamie Wynn Cox, who was a reporter in the Houston Chronicle, was with him, said that he got out of the car with Mayor Dee Dee and herself and a driver was in, and Dr. Graves coming off this way, but he couldn't find his location because the Milby brickyard had been sold the year before and been tore down. So he didn't know his exact location. So that's another question, is if it was buried in a cemetery, they'd know where it was. And he couldn't get his bearings, so they must have used the brickyard for a lineup. And But he said that he went down to the Dr. Valentine's house, found Dr. Valentine's house, and from there they could find the location within an acre.
Yeah, who is Dr. Valentine? You know, I wondered that. There don't seem to be a record of him anywhere other than in this particular thing. Now, Dr. Valentine may very well be a code name for some other person.
Exactly. Remember the sweetheart thing. Buried treasures, always an old symbol, all the way back to the Spaniards. Turtles and hearts. I'll talk to you a little bit about treasure hunting, symbols and signs. You've got to really keep your eyes open for the symbols or whatever may be out there. You know, we're not necessarily treasure hunting, but archaeologists are treasure hunters too. I don't care what they say. They might just have a little bit better education than the real treasure hunters, but there's a lot of smart treasure hunters out there. One of the things that we need to talk about is signs and symbols. Sometimes you can take a tree branch when it's young and twist it. Oops, I broke that one. But twist it, make it grow in a certain direction. You have to do it back up there by the tree. But that can be a pointer, and also cactuses, anything like that you can actually use as a pointer. So you've got to be watching in the trees a lot of times. Now, if it's put back, you know, a couple hundred years ago, or 150 years ago, or even 150 years ago, these things grow, and so they change a lot of times, and so you can't really, you know, they will grow so long at a certain angle or whatever. Sometimes they'll kick off to the side or whatever. So it's not a really reliable way of judging distance or judging direction with using living things like trees or cactus. However, if you look at the rocks and things like that, there's a lot of times, sometimes they'll take a symbol and make a symbol on a rock, or they'll make a cairn where they stack rocks on top of one another. Or whatever, and sometimes those are directional, and sometimes they're misleading. So, you know, even whenever like they might have some kind of a code or whatever in it. Whoa, you never know. You can look at a rock, and if there's certain, like a spider rock, what's called a spider rock or a spider code, you can look in. There's dots, so many dots in them. And that means so many distance, so many feet or whatever, and sometimes direction that you have to go. Other ways, sometimes they'll put like SW, that means southwest. Sometimes S or an E or whatever. You've got to figure out what these things mean. There's a lot of disinformation too that's given to these things, and so even sometimes that the guys that buried this, whatever the artifact or hit them, sometimes they can't even find them, and that's happened all over Oklahoma where I was from. All kinds of stories about old outlaws and whatnot, you know, going up there burying their treasures up on Poto Mountain, and then never being able to find it, or being shot and dying before they could take their, you know, take the guy back that was trying to save them, or the rest of the gang to locate it. So there's why there's always, and so many you know, years of treasure hunting in Oklahoma. And people blowing up all these ruined stones and other markings so other people can't get to them. So it's really interesting. You got to watch the rocks. Like I said, sometimes you'll have pointer marks. You'll have faces. Faces usually mean that you're looking, whatever that face is looking towards. That's what you're going to be going towards. And then you might go to another clue, and then that clue might tell you to go over here or go over there, and there might be something completely different. So you never know, and a lot of times these things might, the cache or the treasure, we'll call it, or whatever it is, may be buried between the two clues. So you got to know what the distance is. You got to be able to know how to figure out the difference. Now, if there's a turtle, anytime you see a turtle or a heart, that both means that there's a treasure. So if you see a symbol, they're both old Spanish symbols. KGC used a lot of these. Albert Pike used a lot of these things just to help hide some of the caches or to give symbols to other people or messages to other people or some of the other Confederates or whoever may be around, or even Masonic people, because he was a big-time Mason. However, we'll go into that on another episode. On this episode, we're just talking about the symbols. So you really got to be careful on top of your toes. I mean, X, like X marks the spot. Well, not really. X doesn't really mark a spot. It means a lot of different things, and it could mean like it marks the spot like on a map, but not necessarily in real life. So if you find an X, okay, maybe, but it also could mean that it's just another part of the puzzle that you have to go about. So always look for turtles and hearts, and your treasure might be close to you. This is Jackson Burns, Redneck Archaeologist. We'll continue with more treasure hunting tips and symbols later. You ever see a symbol with a turtle?
Yeah.
It means that there's a treasure nearby. See a heart, like a sweetheart?
Yeah.
It means there's a treasure nearby.
Or has
Something.
been at one time.
Or a cache or something.